I am Kimberly HayDay Movement,
And I'm Amanda Day,
and you're listening to Fundraising HayDay,
where we cover the how-tos of grants and fundraising.
and how we can all do a better job of changing the world through philanthropy.
That's right. So welcome to a special bonus episode of the Fundraising HayDay podcast. We've got a few exciting things going on, and we just couldn't wait another week to break the news to you.
But first things first, we just want to thank y'all, all y'all, our listeners who've been with us since 2018. Some of you who have just joined us, we do say y'all. All y'all means everyone, and y'all could mean two persons or more. So you're welcome. But thank you. Thank you for joining us. We, like I said, we've been doing this since 2018. We are coming up, or actually by the time this airs, we will have passed perhaps our 140th episode. I'm not a big tracker of these things. Amanda is so on top of that, and I'm sure we'll hop in if I've got something wrong. But we just wanted to celebrate that. We're celebrating a special episode, and we also want to celebrate the fact that without your support, we wouldn't have gotten this far. So one of the new things that we're doing is we're introducing a Patreon membership. And we have had some fantastic partnerships, sponsorships over the past 6 years, 7 years? I don't know my math. 7 years, what? We've had some fantastic partnerships over the last 7 years. And those have all paid for production costs. So yay, thank you, we love you. But what it hasn't paid for is our time to dream big, our time to find guests, our time to record. And someone has to come up with those cheesy sound effects, right? That also takes time. So if this is something that you would like to support, you can hop on over to our Patreon. It's real difficult. It's Patreon, Patreon / is it patreon.com / fundraising HayDay. Just super complex. And it'll get you there. And we're starting things off with a $5 membership per month. And that'll get you some special playlists from Amanda Day Esquire, mixologist. And it'll get you some episodes early, but more important, it'll help us continue to bring content to you, content that we know you value, because you keep coming back. And sometimes you make us cookies.
True story. So the second thing we wanted to share with you is that earlier this year, so early 2024, Kimberly and I went through courageous leadership training with Julie Boll. And if you are watching on YouTube, you probably noticed that she has joined us today. And going through this training with Julie was the push that we needed to make some changes to our training and the work that we're doing. And so Julie is here today to flip the script on us. She is going to take over the reins as interviewer on Fundraising HayDay and talk to us both about that experience and what it has done for our business.
Yay! Fantastic. Has this ever been done before?
No, you're the first. No one's interviewed us.
The second time that you've been on Fundraising HayDay.
This is my second time, yes.
But the first time anybody's interviewed us on our own podcast. And you would think that I would have big control issues, but I'm actually super delighted. I'm just going to sit here, rock gently, and answer some questions I couldn't do.
First things first, I would like to know if I can have a certificate for being your first Patreon member, because I think that is a huge thing to do as podcast host, is to say our content is valuable. And if you agree, here's a way for you to support us. So I'll hop on to the link, and I expect some sort of fanfare for being number one, unless someone else beats me to it. So thank you. Thank you for letting me be here.
Yes, we'll do a thing that I don't know what it is yet. So welcome and thank you. That means a lot. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So yes, my name is Julie Boll. I help people live and lead courageously. I'm in the nonprofit space alongside with Kimberly and Amanda. I spent a long time in the grants world and my entire career in the nonprofit world. But these days, I'm a consultant and a business owner. And so this is what I love about the stories that we're going to tell today, is they're coming from the perspective of being a business owner, a female-led business owner in the nonprofit space. And there's some special extra special challenges that come with that. So I am really excited to unpack what you guys have done since the beginning of this year, because I've been able to witness some of it and I haven't gotten to witness all of it. So thank you for giving me the mic. And I think I want to ask first and foremost, and you guys don't have to keep it limited to your joint pursuit. Just take this where it goes. I think the thing that's a gift to our listeners, your listeners, is hearing how you're doing this work as business owners and where you're taking risks, where you're being courageous, and how that's playing out for you. And maybe not playing out for you. All of it's helpful. So one of the things we do in our workshop is we have people name their calls to courage. And that question is, it's big. It's where do you feel called to be braver in your work and in your life? And you both have beautiful individual calls to courage that also support your collective work. So would either of you like to share?
I'll go first.
You go, get on it.
Well, because my call to courage is that I want to use my voice to encourage others to find their voice.
Beautiful. And so listening to this, it would be easy to say, oh my gosh, Amanda, you already do this. You've been hosting a podcast for how many years and you're extroverted and all of these things. So for you, where do you have to lean in to really honor this call to courage?
I think the first step is just believing that I have a voice, because even though, people like you said, there are people like, well, you've got this podcast. It wasn't until recently that I thought about it. I mean, I know it's going out on the airwaves. I know we're talking, but it's so natural and easy. I feel like I'm just talking to Kimberly half the time, right? So it can be very easy to forget that there are people listening on the back.
You're actually talking to me all the time. I just want to put that out
So it doesn't always feel like that. And even though you have this thing, it's like, well, sometimes you can easily doubt yourself, because it's like, well, yes, we have these things because we decided to do it and we put it out there. It's not like somebody asked us. It's not like somebody showed up and says, hey, there's this awesome thing and we think you're so fabulous, you should lead it. We just decided to do this mostly because we were starting to feel burnout in the grants profession and wanted to find a way to remember why we loved it and the purpose of it, because it's so much more than just churning and burning grants after grant after grant, and that there can be change. And so it was just a good reminder for me that, like, I do have good things to say and I can help other people, and not just on the podcast, but through social media and through trainings that we're doing. And sometimes just through the random meetups of other grant professionals you meet at, grant funder led workshop meetings that are oh so fun. Right. So it's both a reminder to me and hopefully a call to help others find their voice in the same vein.
So I want to unpack this a little bit. So as you named, sometimes when we name our calls to courage, we can look back at history and be like, yeah, I've been walking this out. This explains why I did this or this. So starting a podcast, using your voice in that way is something you've already done. Where do you feel you need to lean into this call to courage and start using your voice more?
I think more, whether it's through the podcast and other things that Kimberly and I are doing, making people realize that our profession and the work that we do, it's not just important, like, yes, you're writing grants, you're getting money, you're funding these things, but as a grant professional, you can be an instrument of change, because the world of philanthropy is far from perfect. There are issues that need to be fixed. And there are things that even 5 years ago, certainly not 20 years ago, I hadn't thought, because I just had my head down and I was doing the work and just trying to focus on my organization needs money and that's what matters, and not realizing that there are so many inequities out there. There are organizations that have the power to do some great and wonderful things, but because they don't have the money as larger nonprofits, they're more grassroots organizations, they may not have the skills and the resources yet to do the things that they need to do, and they're behind the curve when it comes to understanding the ups and downs and intricacies of grant seeking. And so trying to find those folks, to be, whether it's through the podcast or through training or through meeting them at the Grant Professionals Association or however it is, and helping them get over that curve. Recently, I was going off about something in an email to somebody, and their response was like, "You're starting to sound like Voulet." And my response was like, "I will take that as a compliment. Thank you very much."
Absolutely. Absolutely. Agent of change. Is that the word is that the phrase that you use?
I didn't, but I like that.
Okay, agent of change. I won't impose that onto you, but like our identity as grant professionals is not just a person who collects it all and makes it pretty, because that can be how we can diminish the work that
Yeah.
our profession does. So, what are the ways that you are an agent of change?
Um, I think the biggest thing is realizing there are organizations already out there doing some of this great work and lending myself where it makes the most sense. Because the reality is, I only have so many hours in the day. So there's no sense in recreating the wheel. And there's great organizations like Crappy Funding Practices, More Than Grant Writers. And so just keeping up with them and finding opportunities where it makes sense, whether it's, hey, we've got this podcast. Can we help spread the news about this work that you're doing? Or, hey, you want to do this event? Maybe we can help with this. So that's certainly one way I've been trying to do that.
One thing, if you don't mind me sharing, I remember you talking about hesitating to comment on posts where you know that you've got a podcast episode that directly addresses this pain point and not wanting to look like you're self-promoting. So where are you practicing that raising your hand? I have something valuable here that you might want to check out.
Um, Really now, any chance I get, because sometimes all it takes for me is just somebody encouraging you, like, actually, that's really helpful, and
Yeah.
flipping the script on me that, oh, okay, so this isn't, me bragging or being like, because the reality is, number one, it's free what I'm offering. So it's not like I'm saying, hey, come buy my book to learn all this stuff, right? Which that's also not bad. If you've got a book to share,
No.
share it, right? But it's free. And again, the person can take it or leave it. They don't have to do anything with it. But if I don't provide the information, then I'm not helping in a way that I could help. Because I don't think twice about connecting people to other people, or like if someone needs a job, going, hey, I know about this opening. So it was like you just saying, Julie, like, this is a great resource. And why are you not sharing it? I was like, oh, you're right. It is. So sometimes it's just having another person kind of like, hey, this is not that big of a deal.
Yeah, yeah. So I love one, there's a call to courage, and then there's the practice. And that practice is raising your hand and saying, hey, I've got something valuable here.
Yeah.
You should check it out. I am valuable. My voice is valuable. My expertise is valuable. This is a valuable resource. So it's an energetic shift too that I wanted to point out. So I love it. I want to switch for a second to Kimberly and let's check in on that call to courage. And then I want to ask about your new baby, the Grant Lab that launches on September 10th, I believe, which is after this episode. So we're going to hear a little bit about how you guys dreamt this up from something that already existed. So Kimberly, would you please share your call to courage?
I'll share the G-rated version. How about that?
The G-rated, hey, it's your
Hey,
podcast.
podcast.
So you've determined the terms here.
I'm gonna keep it. My call to courage is to show up for my big fat creative gifts.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
That is
What does that mean for you?
It actually means exactly what it says, which is why I can just remember it because it makes such sense. It's really about, I know in the training that Amanda and I did with you in that cohort-based model, we also came up with values.
Yes.
And it was a process of that. And my values were co-creation and perseverance. And so the perseverance part is directly tied. Well, they're both, of course, they're tied, but just that showing up to plan with Amanda, showing up to do the work that needs to be done, showing up and finding ways to show up and just the practice of it. I think that's the most important thing. I am a recovering perfectionist. I will always have those deep embedded tendencies. And so it's just been like, it's not going to be perfect, but it's not going to happen unless you just keep showing up and trying. So that's just what I tell myself. Like right before we started this podcast, I was recording a teaser to post on LinkedIn and talking about this episode. And it was like, and I'm like, I'm not going to I don't really want a script. I just want to talk about it. And so it took like 4 or 5 tries, and then there were some technical difficulties, and then there's some other things. But the important thing is to just try, because I've been really kind of putting it off because I'm like, oh, I don't. No one wants to see this. No one wants, and it's like, just try it and put it out there. I think maybe that's one of the more helpful things that I can do, because it's like, if I can do it, you can do it.
I want to talk a little bit about your personal creativity and some of those avenues that you have, because if you don't mind me sharing, I remember you saying, gosh, this is a collaborative effort. So the both of you participated in this with the intent to support your joint business. And so then there was a focus on your personal creative gifts. And I want to tie that to then what's happening professionally, because we think they're separate. We think, oh, if we do these personal things and we play and we do everything, that we're neglecting, but it ends up, rising the tide for all the boats. So would you talk about your personal gifts that you are celebrating right now?
And for a long time, I didn't want to talk about that either. Like Amanda didn't know for the longest time. I've been for years, gosh, since I was a little girl, since I could read, I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to write stories. So that evolved into, oh, well, I want to write fiction. Well, I want to write novels. And so for years, yeah, it was completely separate. I didn't want anybody at work, in the workplace, right? I didn't want anybody to know about it, because I didn't want to talk about it. It's kind of like if you've ever been laid off or been fired, and then everybody's like, oh, do you have a job yet? It's like, if I had a job, don't you think I'd be telling you? So it's like people are like, oh, have you finished your book? I'm like, probably would have let you know. You have an agent? Would be shouting about this. And so, are you published yet? I'm like, would be handing you a book link right now. Stop it. So it's kind of, they're two separate things. There's the commercial publishing process, which is a whole other thing. But it was the showing up. So what really clicked for me, and then carried off into the things that Amanda and I are doing with Grants Lab and other things, it's just the showing up part. And the time of day, from experience, the time of day where I can do my best work and creativity is early in the morning, because the snide, sarcastic editor that lives inside of me likes to sleep later. So if I get and then I don't hear this, you are too old to be doing this. You are never going to do this right. I cannot believe you wrote that. You read all these beautiful books. And so she's sleeping it off, I guess, because all she ever does, I think, is drink a lot of wine and exercise. I don't know what that's about. But anyway, so every morning, Monday through Friday, I get up at 5 and I write from 5 to 7. And it's a privilege and an honor to do it. And I know that a lot of people cannot wrap their lives around that. So I'm excited that I am able to do that at this stage in my life. But that showing up spills over into the other things, like showing up for Grants Lab and trying new things. And yeah.
So it adds energy. It doesn't subtract it. So
it adds
think,
yeah.
So we started in January, and I think it was early on that you made this commitment. Are we talking 6 months in now of writing from 5 to 7 a.m.
Monday through Friday, later on the weekends, because I'm not a freak.
But you talked about celebrations at the beginning of this podcast. How do you want to celebrate that? You are practicing your craft. You're celebrating your honoring your big craft, fat creative gifts with this time every morning.
I think I celebrate it by doing it. I'm not trying to sound Pollyanna about this, because I like presents as much as the next person. They're great, but it's more, oh, I can do. And the more I show up and the more I write, at this point, I'm revising. If you've ever written a novel or a short story or a poem or an email, or a donor email, whatever, you just have to revise and revise and revise. But revisions are writing too. It's all part of it. So I can just see how much better I am now than I was 5 years ago. I have a critique group that we've met every week for most of the year, like 10 months out of the year, we meet every week, and we've been doing it since 2020, since the pandemic really set in. And it's that co-creation and that showing up. And so the pleasure is almost in the progress of it. And especially after I've written for the day, I really like writing. At 5:15, in the morning, I really don't like anything. I'm just here, getting ready to do my thing. So that it's almost its own reward. And
Yeah.
there was a time when I had finished one round of revisions and I sent it off to a line editor, like a professional editor that I'm working with. And then the alarm went off the next morning. I'm like, well, I've already sent it in. And I was like, wow, man, just get up anyway and start on the next one, because I already had notes for the next book. And it was just like, yeah, just showing up.
Huge. So you have invested over 300 hours in writing since January, that in this very structured way that's tied to this call to courage to show up for your big fat creative gifts. And the theory we have is like, it's going to take something from us to honor our gifts and to hold space for them. What's been the impact of having this writing practice for you?
It helps, it smooths the rest of the day for me. It's because I think what started all, I'm like, let me put the most important things first. It sort of came about maybe when we were talking about time blocking. I know Amanda's written some blog posts about that, but I was like, yeah, I should block this and I should do it in the morning because the editor is asleep and I can just sneak in and get it done. And it's made other things, I won't say like seem easier, but it's like the things I do in the morning now. I make tea because tea. I make tea and I write and then I move.
Yeah.
And then I start the other work. And then the other work doesn't seem so insurmountable.
Yeah.
What it has taken away is, sleep.
Yeah.
There was this whole, we're not even staying up till 10:30. Up at 5. I mean, I do it, and then I just get up and I am who I am. But so that is the takeaway. Wherever whenever you make big changes like that, you need to kind of figure out your sleep hygiene, as they say. But what it gives me, I think, is just, it's more like, I may start my client meetings at 9:30, or Amanda and I may start at 9:30, but I've already been up. I mean, it's almost like my half day right then. So it's like, I'm ready, I've done all the things and all the cylinders are open and I'm just ready to go.
I think energetically, when we have things that we enjoy in our day, they fuel us instead of having our days stacked with things that are a drain. And so that's a huge thing as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the Grants Lab, because we talked about the previous iteration of this in the workshop when you guys were talking about, what you were doing and kind of the dream vision for it. And then there was a little bit of a shift and the Grant Lab was born. And I want you guys to walk the listeners through, like, what was the learning for you? What was the process like for you?
You want me to start, Amanda?
Sure, go for it.
So at first, and I'm still not ruling this out, but the hypothesis was, okay, it's going to be business to business. We have a business now. We started our HayDay Services LLC in 2022 toward the end. So baby business, now in a toddler stage. And we were like, okay, selling to larger membership, like associations or larger nonprofits that may have membership organizations or those kinds of places. It's like, well, this could be a value add that they could offer to their membership. Because at the time, the hypothesis was, okay, then we're selling to one client.
Yep.
And then they're pushing it out to their members or their partners or their partner agencies. So that seems sound, and there doesn't seem to be many people operating in that way. Most of the consulting practices that I knew that were offering training were more B2C, business to consumer, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I thought this kind of would be good, and it is good. But what I am learning is that the sales cycle is just for us and for this product and for what we were doing, the sales cycle was really, really long. Like 3 to 6 months. And we were building this out and building these relationships and having some really good successes. Like once an agency would contract with us, we got great reviews. People liked it. They learned from it. It was very positive feedback, but it was just slogging, slow going. And we couldn't really figure out, it's like Grants Lab is like, it's not just talking heads training, although we're so charming with our little heads here talking, but it's, written feedback, it's coaching, it's one-on-one calls, it's building a grants application over 8 weeks. And it's the training that we wish we had had. And people would say, this sounds really great, but it was the old, well, we'll run it up the flagpole, and it just would linger and linger. And then when we started doing the training together, I think Amanda, did Julie just ask you one day, do you want to take it from there, where she was just like, yeah, but I want you to do this thing.
Yeah, so part of the courageous leadership training, you have a lot of group settings, but also have some one-on-one time to really dig deep into your own calls to courage and your own work. And I think I had mentioned, one of the frustrating things was we knew this was something that would be good because you and I really put this together of the thought that this is what we wish we had. And yes, we
Yes.
can do a series of trainings, which is what everybody kept hiring us for, where it's, big groups of people, not, no one-on-one, no writing assignments, no feedback, other than just for an hour, once a week or once a month, we're going on and talking about some aspect of grant writing. Because of course that's cheaper. No one was biting for this. Hey, this is really what people need, and mentioned it to Julie. And she was like, then why don't you just offer it yourself? And I'm like, well, because that's going to mean we're going to have to, because the nice thing that one of the things that drew us to the whole business to business is we were dealing with one organization. So once they sign the contract and they get us paid, we don't have to worry about registration. We don't have to worry about people trying to back out. I mean, it's going to happen, right? And so when you're doing to the consumer, you're having to set up, there's some new stuff on our website. We're going to have to start taking payments through our website, and people be able to register, and it's going to all these things. And, it's like, that's a lot of work. But Julie's like, but if it's that great, why aren't you doing it? I'm like,
I remember this conversation well. And I remember, so we do this as business owners. We're like, here's the thing I really want to sell you.
Yeah.
And then here's a couple of other things. And I remember challenging you, like, why are you offering the other things? Why aren't you holding on to, this is what we believe in, this is the training we wish we had, and this is what we do. And so there's 1,000 ways to do business, and none of them are right or wrong. But this was such a chance for you guys to take this and put it into action and actually build this dream. So now that it's built, the sky's the limit. We have a collab, what is the word I'm looking for? A collective of different people that are funding this first round for you. But you're building this thing now. It's putting it into the universe, and it's doing the one that you believe in the most rather than the piecemeal version. So I'll just say from my experience as a consultant, it is so often the case where people will come back and want like a smaller version. And I have had to say, especially in the case of strategic planning, this is the way I do things. It's a phrase that another consultant uses that I use too, because I want to guarantee you outcomes, and I want to guarantee impact. And these are the strategies I know that work. So I love it for a couple of reasons for you guys. One is like taking something you believed in and putting that stake in the ground and saying, this is what we're leading with. Taking those other options off the table.
Yep.
And I would also say that it's not like this Grants Lab is the only thing that we're going to be doing with this. And I have a feeling that some of our former training clients will then come back, and at least one or two of them in the new year, and would be like, hey, yeah, let's do this thing. I just think that, and this is also still kind of, I said B2C, but I think maybe I misspoke. It's still B2B, because these are still agencies. These are still nonprofits that are coming to the table.
Yes.
But it's not just dealing with one agency. So maybe we're back to the numbers. There are more people involved, so it's more likely to happen rather than trying to say, we will tailor make this for you, agency or association with lots of members. And this is what we're going to do. And then have them go, oh, that is really great. But what we really want is for you to come on once a week and talk for an hour. I mean, my Lord, we can talk for more than an hour, more than once a week. We frequently do. But so I don't want to move that out of the way, but I love what you said about sort of the stake in the ground about actual outcomes. Like if you really want to grow your grant capacity, then it does take time, just like it takes time to sit down and write a novel, just like it takes time to do so many other things, teach your child to tie their shoes. I mean, it just takes time and a commitment of time. And I think that kind of takes me back to what we were talking about at the very first, when Amanda was finding her voice and she was, as a grants professional, it's like, it is a highly skilled position or a series of tasks and responsibilities. And it's not always recognized as that. And I mean, blah, 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 patriarchy, women undervalued in the workplace, yada, yada.
Oh, very
But
real.
it's the truth. It's the truth. But I think it's all tied together with, if you do really want to be successful in grants, it does take some time and it does take expertise and it does take practice and it takes showing up.
I want to underscore one thing because I want to be conscious of time too, but you guys put a new variation of this offering out into the universe, and all of the, sort of voices would come up like, oh, now we're going to have our own payment page, or like all of that, like those fears come up because we don't know exactly what to expect. So now that you're here and you have the cohort locked in, what did you learn from taking this offering and sort of repackaging it out into the world?
For me, it was like, because going back to when you and I were talking, Julie, you were like, she's like, you were like, I'd like to see you do this in 3 months. And so when Kimberly and I were talking about
Yeah.
months, a little aggressive because we both have other things going on, but we're grant professionals. We are so good with deadlines. So we took that challenge of, okay, what is feasible? When could we have our first cohort starting? And let's figure out then, what all needs to be accomplished. And it's just, it's no different than any other project management we do and all the other things we do. It's like, okay, what are all our tasks? Who's responsible for what? And this is one of the reasons I love working with a partner instead of being a solopreneur at all of this is, where do your strengths lie? What is it you want to tackle? Okay, then I'll tackle these 6 things, and then coming together and, finalizing everything together. And so it just treating it like that, but having that, okay, we're doing this. This is the day. And another thing too, that Kimberly is so good at reminding me about is, right now, this is our baby. We're not saying yes to other extra things. Like we need to say,
Yes.
because you've been very good about reminding me of this, Julia. Hey, well, when are you going to do this? Well, I'll find the time. How? And one of the things, we've had a virtual assistant for over a year now, but we've been, especially Kimberly's like, Amanda, why are you doing this? This is something she could be handling for you. And it's amazing. Suddenly it's like all these things. And I'm like, oh, it didn't take very much time. Well, suddenly I'm like, that's like 5 hours a week that's off my plate now,
Yeah.
which I can do a lot in 5 hours. So
Yes. So the decision point of we're going to launch and we're going to lock in. Kimberly, can you talk about this a little bit? Because we've talked one-on-one a little bit about like, we kind of have our safety nets that we're nurturing where we're like, well, if it takes off, great, but I'm going to grab all these other jobs in the meantime so that I'll be safe if it doesn't take off. Like there's some mental games that we tend to play when we're getting ready to put new work into the universe in a new way. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, they're mental games, and I acknowledge that I am like the game master when it comes to that. But there's also, I need to be financially responsible. Like I can't just go, oh, I'm not going to do anything else but launch this in 6 months because we have bills to pay and financial goals. So for me, it was threading that needle. And for me, it meant, okay, not taking on more clients where I'm doing direct service, but also being really cognizant of the projects that I do take on, that they that they are actually getting me the most bang for my buck when it comes to setting that stage. And so I had a couple of false starts with, oh, I'll just do this. And it's like, oh no, I can't. And then it was, oh, this will be great. I can make this in a month what I would have made, unless I can do this in 2 weeks and I can make more than I would have made with this one client in a month. Great. Unless the payments are delayed. So it's kind of like, oh, we're back to it. But so part of it is being really cognizant of what you're saying yes to. And also, I'm real clear on what my numbers are, what I need to reach in order to let go or modify other parts of my business, because I have my own LLC as a consultant, and then Amanda and I have our business together. And my focus is changing that balance so that the majority of the work that I do is with Amanda in training and podcasting and keynoting and things like that.
That's courageous. That is choosing this vision for the future that's different from your existence right now.
But I do feel like I'm the cold wind of doom sometimes with Amanda, but I'm even more so with myself. I'm just like, nope. I'm the same way with my clients. I feel like I spend so much time going, I know that federal grant is big, fat, and juicy, but they want regional and you are hyper local, and it is not a good fit. And I'm telling you, this is the person that actually gets paid to write grants with you. So it's in my best interest to write all the grants. But I have to have that conversation with myself too.
Yep.
It's like, you may not want to, so now what I do is I will explore an opportunity in the form of like a 30-minute to 45-minute discovery call, and then I either move forward with it or I refer it, and that's it. And more often I'm referring.
Absolutely. And what does that do for you?
It frees up time, and it makes it, oh, well, we are really moving toward this thing. And I am meeting the financial obligations that I need to meet, and it's going to be okay. I mean, it will be okay either way, but it's just sort of shifting that focus. In my life in general, I've built such a robust, juicy, beefy fallback plan that I didn't spend enough time maybe doing the things that I really wanted to do, like spend that time writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Huge.
I'm doing it now.
I love that. I want to honor your time. So you tell me how much time we have and where you want to shift.
Well, actually, I just wanted to hear some more from you as we wrap up about, I feel like there are probably going to be a lot of people tell me that they nod along and sometimes they laugh. I hope they're laughing when we're trying to be funny, but I'm not going to question.
As long as you're laughing, there was a positive outcome.
But I feel like there are going to be some people that were really nodding along with things that you had to say today. And I know that you are planning something coming up in January of 2025. And I would love for our listeners to hear about that as we wrap up this time, which has been so amazing, and what fun.
Yes. Well, thank you for agreeing to flip the script and be interviewed on your own podcast. I just think this is the most powerful work we can do, is let people in on, like, there's fear with putting something new out and offering out and not knowing if that investment in time is going to pay off. And you have a situation where it did. And man, you got that traction, and that traction is a beautiful thing. It can help you launch it into different spaces. So congratulations again on launching a Grant Lab. So yes, the retreat that I'm having in January is in partnership with Dana Patterson, who is in the Grant Professionals Association with us. So Dana and I led a workshop last year at the National Grant Professionals Association Grant Summit. And we were kind of like, oh gosh, we were the very last session. People were leaving our session to get to the airport. And I don't think I've actually ever stayed for the last session in the conference before. And so I was a little bummed about it. I was like, oh man, no one's going to stay. Well, people did. Amanda was in the room, which was lovely. People did. We had a big room and we had such a great experience about setting a vision for your career and your business by both reflecting on the past year and then learning, like we've been talking about here, like what did you learn? For Kimberly, it's show up, show up, show up, show up, show up. And so taking that learning and then setting a vision for the future. And we said in that 1 hour workshop, we want you to have new self-awareness and a new vision for yourself. And we got a wonderful response from it. Dana is a lovely person to collaborate with. I know both of you have met her before. She was in the workshop with us.
Right.
And she's got such beautiful energy. And she had already been leading her own retreats. So we decided to get together and put one together really at the request of several attendees at this workshop. So we are going to do it. Here's what I know. Number one, HayDay listeners get a discount. So there will be a special page, and I'll give it to you in a moment for HayDay listeners. But it's going to be in California, in the Redwoods, in the mountains.
Wow.
And it's going to be a 3-day retreat where we are going to reflect on where we've been, what we've learned, and where we want to go. And I think the value is having a safe place to do that work and really being able to disconnect and decompress enough to really, really let yourself dream. And so you guys are an example of what's it like to dream. You want this partnership, these trainings, you want this to be the future of your work. Dream, figure out what products you're going to put out into the world, what it's going to look like, and how you're going to put your stake in the ground. So anyway, we would love for you to join us and your listeners. And that's what I know so far. It's the last weekend in January, and we'll have some details on the website, which is juliebollconsulting.com/HayDay.
That's awesome. Yeah, I will tell you, I was in that session, and I've had the last session before, and it is a feeling of, oh, great, no one's going to be here, but it was a packed room. And as you were talking, I was like, ooh, I remember I took notes on my phone for this. And here, full circle moment, Julie, because this is before I even knew about your courageous leadership that Kimberly and I ended up joining at the time. But under the dream session, where it was like permission to envision the possibilities, what unique strength and qualities do you want to acknowledge and celebrate, what matters most to you? Two of things on my list. Number one was a connector between people and their dreams and their needs. And the second one was helping others get the knowledge, resources, info, connections, etc. needed to find the work that they love. So I had forgotten about that. So
Oh man, what a beautiful thing to reflect on. Thank you for sharing that. How do you see that? I'm like, gosh, stop asking questions. I'm going to stop asking questions. But that reflection that you made back in January, how have you seen that play out in your work this year?
I would say just things like, one of the things Kimberly and I started about a year ago now is the HayDay Hot Takes newsletter, and just some of the feedback we're getting from people, whether it's just this article was super helpful, or there's someone we know that she runs a big state agency. And so oftentimes she just forwards our newsletter blog posts to the folks in her grants. And so seeing how just things like that you often wonder, like, okay, we're putting this out there, but seeing how it's helpful to other people is something that's great. And so yeah, stuff like that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's really powerful to do this work with other people. It really is. It felt really good to be in that room. I didn't know, because it was the biggest room that I've had at the conference anyway. And I was surprised by that. But what was nice was watching people really connect at the tables and share really generously. So yeah, that's exactly what we plan to do at the retreat as well.
And Amanda and I got to look at the website for this place. Can we say then? We can say the name. Lord, I've forgotten the name. It's Sequoia Retreat Center.
Yes. So we know it's going to be in the Redwoods. I very much hope it's at the Sequoia Retreat Center, and I don't have that locked in yet. So fingers crossed that's where we're going to be. But that's exactly the spirit that we want at this retreat. Is you're literally surrounded by these massive, majestic trees that have been around for a very long time. And I think there's something about being in nature and having awe and wonder around you that helps you ground, center, and just let go of everything that's weighing you down and dream a different future for yourself.
So whatever the center may be, I think big trees are going to
Big
be
trees, sequoia trees had better be there. Yes. In California. And so Dana is from California. I am in Illinois. So in January, it's very cold in Illinois. And Dana thinks it's cold in California, and it's not. So this is kind of, it's all relative to your geographic location. So yes, we have looked, it should be about, mid 60s during the day, which is, yes, campfires and hikes and just, again, time to disconnect from the pressures of either a grant career or solopreneurship, business ownership. All of them are incredibly stressful. Disconnect from that and really kind of give yourself space to dream.
Oh, well, that sounds incredible. And I can't say enough for whether it is Julie or someone else in your life, but having someone that is it's one thing to have your partner pushing you, but to have someone from the outside looking in going, hey, have you thought about this? And give you those gentle nudges, sometimes harder nudges. Sometimes you need those to make, because it's very easy to be like, this is our safe space and we'll do this. But the reality is, Kimberly and I don't want to take 10 years for our business to be what we envision it to be. We would like that to happen quicker, and that's not going to happen quicker if we don't start making some big bodacious moves.
Yes.
And so thanks for pushing us to do that.
Yeah.
Everybody needs Julie in their life.
Always. Yes, absolutely. And we normalize the struggle of growth because it is not always fun. There's a lot of fear that's wrapped into that. There's a lot of things that we have to face. So doing it in community with others is so powerful.
It's just been a real treat to not have to worry about questions and only think about the answers. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. Thanks for trusting me.
But also, I just hope that no matter where you are, if you're listening, it is where you are in your career. But if we can just have more discussions about this and many other things in life, instead of just sort of putting it behind a little curtain or pretending like, oh, we just had this idea and it's all great now. And talk about the process, I think is super important. So thanks for doing that. Really appreciate it.
And listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode and got as much out of it as we did. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming next Thursday. We're talking about right-sizing your nonprofit staff to meet your workload. So we'll see you then, and maybe even in real life in January with Julie. Fingers crossed.
Yay!
Bye.
Bye.